Hey, now no pay ukwanya wakasa ubwefu musi.
Enya me brother Mr. Happiness na ehame. Me see who say Ghana Post aye fast, reliable and affordable nti. Na nsɛn na numa ye ne de edwanya kuma me di e de koma no e fa Ghana Post. Wadi ni nyina. Ene se wasa aswan masa kodi dwa me de ko Ghana Post yo. We Kobi kakra Ajene kakra, akrantie so shase. Ghana Post.
The most affordable delivery option for food and merchandise from Ghana to everywhere in the world. Connect with us today and see for yourself. Ghana Post. Smart, secure deliveries.
Mensa coming package, in less than 5 days, Ghana Post, they make life the big. Ghana Post will deliver to you wherever you are in the world.
You can be an expert in all analytics. You know who will be the next star of the season. You can be an expert in all matches. You're an expert in statistics or people's opinions. One expert will help you show your expertise. Express yourself. You're the expert.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
Get ready for an exciting escape. An 8-day all-inclusive Easter getaway for you and your family from March 28th to April 4th, 2024 on board the MSC Splendida cruise ship. Visit stunning destinations in South Africa and Namibia filled with discovery, relaxation, and culture. This all-inclusive package includes full board cabin accommodation with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all drinks and entertainment on board, Cape Town City Tour, one-night pre- and post-cruise hotel accommodation in Cape Town, all transfers, travel insurance, and return flights. Call your cruise people now on 030-825-1055 to secure your cabin with only 6,000 Ghana cedis and pay the rest later. Life is better at sea. Experience it.
Hello, love bags. My name is Akofa from Kofa Yoga Studio. Join me this Saturday, 6 p.m. sharp on the Lady Circle.
Does sleep also affect our posture?
Yes, it does, but we have no control over it. That's why it's very important to stretch as soon as you wake up in the morning.
I sleep like a Tasmanian devil sometimes. Start from one end and end up on the other.
It's gonna be fun. We're gonna tone up and get flexible. That was awesome.
Thank you. Balanced nutrition, and nutrition is very important when it comes to staying fit. Have you ever flirted with a guy at your gym before?
Not guilty.
I didn't like the
Hey. Oh.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad,
Onga, Yumvita,
MTN,
Woodin,
Cowbell, Our Milk,
Gluta White.
Welcome back to The Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. This week, we had a statement from the Finance Ministry concerning the VAT on electricity, a certain section of consumers of electricity beyond the lifeline bracket. We're going to put that statement from the Finance Ministry on the screen right now, the specific detail that they put out there and why they are asking you and I to pay for this, in fact, brace ourselves for the payment of some 15% VAT on the electricity that we consume. That statement from the Finance Ministry specifically detailing why. We lost Ben Boachi, but he's going to be joining us shortly. on Zoom for a quick conversation on this particular issue, whether there is any basis for this decision as taking, and whether as a people what we are even paying for we're getting. I'm going to play to you as we go on as well a conversation that within the week I had with the Deputy Minister for Energy, Andre Japamesa, on exactly why this VAT on electricity was introduced in the first place and what is the purpose. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority, as per the directive from the Finance Ministry within this week, as advertised, the government is requesting the GRA to liaise with 2 power distribution companies to transfer the value-added tax generated from consumers who have exceeded their lifeline power consumption. In that press release, Ken Oforiatta directed that the ECG and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company work with the GRA to implement VAT on households that have consumed power above the maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline unit effective January 1, 2024. It continues, the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Northern Distribution Company, that's NETCO, are hereby requested to liaise with the Ghana Revenue Authority to ensure the implementation of VAT for residential customers of electricity above the maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units, which to take effect on January 1, 2024, in line with Section 35 and 37 and the Fare Schedule 9 of Act 870. By a copy of that letter, which we'll be putting on the screen right now, the GRA is requested to ensure that it liaises with ECG and NETCO for the transfer of the revenues collected from the implementation of VAT. That's what you see there, on the subject matter as part of its domestic VAT collections. What we got to find out was that some of the conditionalities related to the IMF engagements as well. Now, that's the details of the letter as captured, indeed, written by Ken Oforiatta, the Finance Minister. While we are at it, we had our experiences with the power supply even this week, which we got to know was as a result of our debt owed the West African Gas Pipeline Company. We owed them some $19 million. In fact, $10 million has been paid, an additional some $4 million as well. So there's still some debt owed the West African Gas Pipeline Company. If you recall, we also had some issues with Sanon Asogli in the early part of December 2023, when they threatened to also cut supply, and the government had to engage in some arrangement with them, pay them $60 million, $30 million each in 2 tranches. There is a big financial problem that we are faced with in our power sector, which is impacting on the supply of electricity. While we try to get Bembachi on, Professor Gyampo, I mean, you are a consumer of electricity, so hearing that we have VAT going to impose, this was actually approved by Parliament, by the way. A number of...
Aisha. Yeah, but the minority said they were not.
It was approved by Parliament. You know, when these are some of the things that were approved in the last days of Parliament, because you know, and then you have a lot of activity. So a lot of things went through without even we getting to know.
Yeah. Well, so the point is that I saw it, and then I belong to a platform of labor unionists. I mean, this was put on our platform, and government should brace itself to hear from labor about their response. And I asked myself, when I read it. That so what happened to the promise by this government to abolish nuisance taxes? What happened to that promise? When somebody was governing, we had certain limited taxations or taxes on certain items, which when you were in opposition, you described as nuisance taxes. And you made it a campaign promise that when we get to power, we would abolish all nuisance taxes. Around the time, those of us who believed in the rhetorics and in their demagoguery. Demagogues are people who know how to talk just for the purposes of capturing power. When we believed in them, we felt that, look, if a government is coming and is going to be abolishing nuisance taxes, let us support them. But it appears that this particular regime is a true definition of the description of partisan politics as being a game of lies and deception. Would they have supported a move like this if they were in opposition? So it beats my imagination that it appears this government stands as an opposite. It stands opposite to all the kinds of things it said when it was looking for power. Now, inflicting more hardship on people, electricity, imposing taxation on it. Already the bills have gone, the tariffs have been increased. People are complaining, and the next thing you want to do is to impose more hardship by introducing taxation, VAT on electricity. I think it is most unfair, it is most unfortunate, but maybe what can suit us is a certain understanding that, look, we had a lot of hope in this government, but for now it's a bad case. I mean, we've been disappointed, and so for me, the fact that I'm disappointed, and I no longer expect them to do anything better, suits me a little. That way, I say.
You know what's interesting? When all this was going on, Parliament actually experienced some doomsday as well.
My point is this. You see, my point is this. My point is this. If we have debts to pay, if we have their interventions that might be put in place to ensure that we pay our debts for the purposes of keeping Ghana switched on, let these interventions be implemented. But you do not promise us that you're going to be abolishing nuisance taxes only to get power and introduce unprecedented nuisance taxes without even explaining to us. Okay, when J.A. Kufuor was in opposition, I did a seminar work which is published, Ministerial Appointment and Government Expenditure in Ghana's Fourth Republic. It was Kufuor's comment in opposition that made me do that research. He looked at Jerry Rawlings's appointees, the size of his government, and said and compared us to America. That look at the wealth of America, their population and all that. They don't have that size of government. Around that time, Rawlings had, I think, 83 ministers. Now he got to power and he appointed first 88 ministers. And the media went to him and asked, but you said that you are going to run a lean government. How come your size is bigger than that of Jerry Rawlings? And then he confessed and apologized. So when I was in opposition, I saw things differently. When I got to power, I realized that things were so different from how they appeared in opposition. And, well, we grumbled a little and we let. So if you promise that you are going to be abolishing nuisance taxes, and now you have introduced unprecedented nuisance taxes, I mean, the courteous thing to do to Ghanaians is to explain that, look, we promised you this, but we have failed because of A, B, C, so that it will suit us a little. But now it's like we promised, we didn't do it, and we are violating the promise even the more, and we don't care, go to hell. Well, it's unfortunate, but let me tell the MPP administration that what they are doing now, okay, would have a telling effect not on only their electoral fortunes in the coming elections, but in other subsequent elections, even post 2024. Because now you are creating an impression that this is a tradition that parades experts, saints, supposedly good governance experts. But when you give them the mandate, then they are the worst offenders. They would perform abysmally, even than they will be worse than those that we do. I mean, when the NDC was in power, people felt that, well, these people, they don't know. I mean, just leave them. But the MPP, they have the men. They will be able to do it. But those with the men see what they are doing to us, worse than those who never touted any credentials of having the men. I'm saying that the introduction of VAT on electricity consumption is an example of the nuisance taxes that the party, when it was in opposition, promised to abolish. If for some reason they've decided to do or introduce more nuisance taxes, it is courteous for them to come back to Ghanaians and explain why they have violated their own promise.
Right. Ben Boakye is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, for example. Thank you. Ben, good morning.
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to Prof. and Martin in the studio.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Now,
and maybe there are others that I haven't seen yet.
Yes, so. There's Haruna, and then there's lawyer Ediji Tamaklo. They are all here as well.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Just a little. See, I'm told that this particular act that has led to the introduction of VAT on electricity was passed in 2013. Okay. Now, the point is this. Honorable Ijapa Mesa, thanks for giving me that information. I have a lot of respect for you. Okay. I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you very much. But the point is that if somebody passed it in 2013 and you have promised us that you were going to be abolishing nuisance taxes, I mean, you should go ahead.
From taxation to production.
Yeah. You should not. I mean, it was because they passed. It was because they passed some of these things. That's how come Ghanaians were not happy with them. Okay. And so when you've gotten the opportunity, you should go ahead to right the wrong.
As you have made that, but yes, Ediji wanted to a quick and direct response to this. Yes.
Alfred, I think that Professor Gyampo should not allow Ejapama to mislead. From 2013 to date, nobody had placed value-added tax on electricity.
No, I think that is not in contention. No.
Did he say that?
No, hold on.
Did the law pass in 2013?
No, he's talking to me. Hold on.
Wait.
No, he's talking to me. Let me respond. I think, Edwiji, what I'm saying is that the guy is telling us that the act was passed in 2013,
and that is true.
Okay, and nobody, but
implementation.
I think that implementation has never taken place from 2013 until now. It's not in doubt.
Exactly.
No, it is not in doubt. That one is not in doubt. And I'm saying that if somebody passed it in 2013 and never worked with it, and you promised us that you'll be abolishing nuisance taxation, then you are not the regime that must go towards or close to the implementation of what was passed in 2013. That also even contributed to we voting them out of power. Okay. And so it is a disappointment to many Ghanaians. And sometimes you do these things, and I don't know the source of your energy and the source of the energy, and you are very bold. Sometimes these things go on and you still ignore them, and then you talk in a certain manner. And I tell myself, are you listening to yourself? Do you listen to Ghanaians? Don't promise abolition of nuisance taxation.
Okay.
And introduce
let me understand this.
Nuisance taxes in your regime without at least apologizing or being courteous to us by explaining why you have decided to go the way you are going.
Let me bring in Ben Boakye on this quick one on this matter. Zabachi, now, is there any real justification for this introduction of a VAT on electricity at this time, especially when we're talking about the challenges that our power sector is faced with and even leading to consumers not enjoying the power we are paying for?
Yeah, thanks, Alfred. I think for me, the principle is not a problem. Again, it's really the timing. And the timing, I mean, the state of the energy sector as we have it now. We've been grappling, to fix some fundamental issues in the power sector that allows everybody to contribute, everybody consuming power to pay for it, and also an improved service that delivers value to the consumer. Those are the fundamental things you need to provide to set the platform for you to be able to tax it. We've not been able to deliver that. So over time, what we have seen, trending and looking at the issues in the power sector, is that the more we pile, the tariffs and taxes and others on electricity, the less revenue we get from that sector. We can trend the data. The government should know that, when you increase the tariff, a lot of people fall off the system and they don't pay. If they cannot pay, they steal it. And ECG, NETCO are unable to collect the revenue. So if you don't have that system to be able to operationalize some of these measures, fiscal measures, you're only going to pile a burden on the few who have decided that they will stay on the grid and pay their tariff or their bills. And that's what keep happening. The more you increase the tariff, people fall off and the burden increases. I mean, we have adjusted the tariff more than 100% in the past 1 year. And yet, the revenue requirement of the sector has declined. We are not making as much revenue as is required to be able to pay the generators, the transmitters, the distributors, and the regulators, and everybody else in the value chain. So the taxes that are even supposed to be collected by ECG from businesses and the rest of it, government usually don't get that money because they can't collect much to be able to pay the value chain. So it's surprising that we will now want to extend that tax on the assumption that we'll be able to collect. So it's an exercise in futility. We're not going to make money until we address the fundamental issues that assures everybody who is on the grid that we are paying fair value for the electricity that we are getting. People commit to this power sector, pay, we are now almost installed prepaid meters to a lot of consumers. And if people are running prepayment meters, some have paid in advance 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and the light is not even on for them to be able to utilize the investment they have made ahead of time. What is the justification in allowing them? Because once you are using a prepayment meter and this 15% is added, what it means is that you're going to now have to pull up an upfront payment to government. So your business or the cash flow that you have, that you would have used to perhaps look for the alternative when the light is not on or when the service is not provided, you're not going to have to cough more and give to ECG to keep, and they may not even give you the light. So the burden is actually going to deepen on the average consumer, and that's why we need to really re-examine the whole energy sector situation and see how we address it. It's unfortunate that we keep behaving as if we are so incompetent to address the fundamental issues in the energy sector, and for which reason government keeps sacrificing all that we have as a country to just pretend to be keeping the light on. All right, we cannot have a sector that drains about 2 billion plus every year from us. And we are not doing that much investment in roads. We are not doing that much investment in schools. We are not doing that much investment on social protection. We are not doing that much investment in any other sector. The analysis and assessment we have done, even from the budget, shows that if you put all those social sectors together and look at their capital investment, it's not 30% of what we spend trying to keep the light on. When light essentially is business, then we need to treat it as such and keep, the managers of the system treating it as business and making money to pay the generators, the transmitters, and everybody in the value chain. My fear even is that, Gridco and VRA are the worst hit. And if we are not careful, the way things are going, there's in a looming catastrophe if these guys are not able to hold up and keep, transmitting and generating power for the consumer, because they are not getting paid. When the IPPs cough, Ministry of Finance can go and raise money for them. When WAPCO coughs, they can shut the valves and suddenly money is made available for them. VRA cannot cough, they cannot shout. Gridco cannot cough, they cannot shout. And they are bottling all the inefficiencies and lack of finances to be able to operationally maintain the grid and the integrity of the infrastructure. That could, create problems for us in future. And if you note, when the load shedding started recently, they had to cut supplies to our export market because we didn't even have enough to be able to allow export of product power to the other countries. And these are the sources that VRA essentially depend on, because ECG is not paying them, all right? And Gridco also gets some money for transmitting power to them. And those are the little monies that they are getting to actually survive on. What they do for the Ghana market is essentially pro bono. They are not getting money for it. So if they lose that market also, the danger is that they are going to be cash-strapped. They wouldn't have any resources. And also risks our ability to export power in the future. The advantage we have had over the years is that we are relatively stable, not because we are competitive. All right, we are relatively stable compared to Nigeria that also exports power to Benin and Togo. Our grid is much more stable. If we render it much more unstable, then we could lose the entire export market. Because Nigeria, for example, is selling power to the rest of the region at around 6 cents. All right, we are doing 10 cents plus. So if we lose our competitive advantage, which is stability of the grid, nobody is going to buy power from us in the region. If Nigeria improves on the grid stability, they take the market because they are competitively priced from us. So we are treading on dangerous grounds, and I think those are things we need to really pay attention and fix, and not pile more burden that rather, make everything precarious for the consumer.
You say that if things continue this way, there's a looming catastrophe. Is it that Gridco and VRA may encounter some challenges going forward that may prove catastrophic to their survival?
It's not may, it has started. A lot of the load shedding that you saw in December and November, it's not because we didn't have power. It's because the grid is not holding up. Systems are collapsing at various, substations. And those are the trips that you see taking off the light from the consumer, and they call it a localized fault, as if it is normal. But that is how it starts. When you have multiples of that happening across the country, it affects the sustainability of the power sector. Remember that we have also signed up to take-or-pay arrangements with all the IPPs. So if they generate and you cannot transmit or distribute, you still have to pay for it. We have take-or-pay arrangements with our gas suppliers. If they produce, you can't transmit to use it for gas power production, you have to pay for it. So if people are not consuming power, the state is losing money. That is something that we shouldn't countenance. We should make sure that the light is on at all times and the system is sustainable. It is worse at this point to have the power off, because all the take-or-pay will kick in, and somebody has to bring the money to the table to come and pay when we have not even consumed the power for us to pay for it. And the budget will be the one paying for it rather than building the schools and the hospitals and other things that we need.
So essentially, the incidence of this tax is that it's going to make electricity expensive. People will all have to brace ourselves to pay more for the power that we're getting, in addition to the increases in tariffs that's going to be coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really going to address much. The biggest problem we do have is that ECG is not collecting much. And when they collect, the inefficiencies in their system, I mean, they spend more on themselves than those who are generating and transmitting the power in most cases. And these are things that we have to address, improve those spaces, make sure that power generated, we can trace it all the way to the consuming point and money collected. When you look at the tariff, there are segments within the tariff There is a generation component, there is a transmission component, there is a regulatory component, and there is also a distribution component. We cannot have a situation where, by virtue of somebody collecting the revenue, decide to keep how much they want, or decide not to collect enough, or pretend that there are no systems to be able to collect enough, and keep everybody cash strapped in that sector. And that is why, that failure over a decade of trying to fix the distribution sector, is terrible on us as a country, where we consume power and we cannot trace who is consuming it. And we just keep thinking that we should adjust the tariff, when the reality is that about 30% of the power to begin with that is generated cannot be accounted for, beyond even the revenues that cannot be collected. So now you're doing about 70% of under recoveries. How do you consume power and you cannot account for 70%, or you don't have enough money to be able to pay the value chain? So that is a terrible situation that we have to build the systems quickly for us to be able to address it. And I keep saying this for years, that you have people who are complaining in various localities about power cuts and the rest of it, and sometimes it takes just somebody being prompt enough to go and switch back the transformer. Sometimes there are basic trips that can be addressed quickly, but the attitude and people don't really care much, and therefore you can be in darkness if your meter trips, for example, for weeks until it's attended to, because there are no robust systems to be able to keep you back or bring you back on the grid for you to consume electricity.
You see, and Haruna, just a bit on this, because the fundamental concern here is, just as Ben Boachi has been talking about, if you take, say, 100 cities of power supply, ECG is able to collect just about 30 cities. 70 cities is unaccounted for, coupled with the challenges that the sector is faced with, plus the fact that as consumers, we're going to be subject to continuous increases in tariffs. In fact, until just December, when we had that small reduction, there's been over 70% increases in tariffs over the last 1 year. Now, that is going to continue, plus this VAT you're putting on it. You should understand the concerns of the consumer, is it not?
Thank you, Alfred. I heard you read the statement that was issued by the Finance Ministry, signed by Ken Ofori-Atta, which is captioned as implementation of value-added tax. Obviously not an imposition. This is an implementation. And happy to make reference to the act on which this reference was made to, which was duly established. That's Act 870, which was done in 2013. When you pick the reference points that is made by the Finance Minister's statement, he talked about Section 35 and 37. And Section 35 deals with exempt supply. Exempt supply. And it says the supply of goods and services specified in first schedule is an exempt supply and not subject to tax. Meaning that there is a provision that gives the Finance Ministry to implement beyond these particular thresholds that has been issued. 37 is also mentioned, which is also fallen under the same exempt supply, but falls under exempt import, which talks about an import of goods is an exempt import if the goods are exempt under the first schedule or classified as an exempt import in conformity with the custom tariffs schedule, also known as the harmonized system. Then it went further to make reference to the schedule. And the schedule, when you go to the Schedule 9, it talks about a supply to a dwelling of electricity up to a maximum consumption level specified for block charges for lifeline units. These are references that the Finance Ministry is making based on law, which was established under one administration. Do you want to tell me that if we establish a law under this government and NDC probably in an unfortunate situation they should come to power, they should not implement the law?
Okay.
This is a law. So we can all talk about increment in tariffs, but we can obviously not say that we should stop taxation and move on to be able to. I want to respond to this particular statement. Prof made a statement about we say rhetorics in terms of we saying
well,
that
because
we want to
made,
reduce. I have to address that point. Alfred, please,
yes.
please, just let me address those points. Prof, you forgot that we abolished excise duty on petroleum. When we came, we mentioned it. When we came, we abolished excise duty on petroleum. We reduced special petroleum tax rate from 17.5% to 15%. We abolished the 1% special import levy. We also abolished the 17.5% VAT on NHIL on domestic airlines. You are aware of that? We abolished 17. In the end, the point is that we have not.
This particular tax.
Yes, but
this
we have
VAT,
not.
This VAT on electricity, that is where the concern is.
Yes,
that's how you have abolished.
Yes,
I'm talking about what the consumer is not happy about.
We campaigned on abolition of nuisance taxes and we did nothing.
Okay.
That is why I'm making that reference. At least you should appreciate the fact that we have gone ahead to reduce taxes. The nuisance taxes that we have made, we made a promise, we fulfilled that promise to the people of Ghana.
Just suppose that. Let me bring in Lawyer Eduji Tamaklo.
What is the essence of abolition?
Let me bring in Dr. Eduji Tamaklo on this.
We are not introducing more. We are not introducing more. We are not introducing more. The point is that we've seen that we have nuisance. We have seen this one as a relevant factor to look at. And as we speak, nobody is paying
your
VAT.
microphone is off.
Nobody is paying VAT on electricity as we
Let me bring you in at this point on this.
Can you hear me?
You please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Good. You see, if you read the statement.
Kindly go back a bit for me. If you can sit back a bit for me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. If you read the law passed by, or the statement by the finance minister, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. The statement from the finance minister is self-explanatory. They are having to do this simply because of the IMF program. Nothing more, nothing else. In fact, the statement itself says that the IMF supported post-COVID-19 program focus. So this government, as a result of the reckless, the mismanagement of the economy, we had to go to the IMF for a balance support. And the IMF is telling you, as part of their conditionalities, that a law that is dead, go and revive the law. And by reason of that revival, impose value-added taxation on Ghanaian consumers. And if you read the statement, the only exemption is a person who consumes 30 Ghana cedis per month. Alfred, with the greatest respect, how many Ghanaians today consume only 30 Ghana cedis of electricity per month? So effectively, this is a law that its implementation by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration is going to increase the burden on Ghanaians already. In fact, if you look at the 2024 budget statement, it has a raft of taxes, new taxes. So already, if you pick the household disposable income of say 100 Ghana cedis, right? And the amount you spend on electricity is say 50 cedis. Your rent, this government is taxing rent this year. This government, for the first time, is not having sympathy on young people, middle class income earners who are having to. So, yes, I want to listen to you.
Yes, while you round up. In fact, as for the litany of taxes, is one thing we'll talk about subsequently.
Good. So the point I am making is that this government had the benefit of ESLA. They have squandered it.
Okay.
This government had the benefit of having the greatest tax revenue collection by any administration since 1992. Why do we have a situation where we are having to burden the ordinary Ghanaian through no fault of theirs? Right. So bottom line, if Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, the chairperson of the economic management team, had managed this economy better,
right,
we wouldn't have gone to the point of having to impose, for the first time since 2013, tax on electricity.
Thank you. And look, the number of taxes introduced, and I say this because there are some that slipped through the radar we didn't even talk about. But next week, the list of taxes that you should know about that would also require payment, we'll tell you. But I reserve this last comment for you on this recommendation that Dr. Kojo Afrejan made. Just 1 minute on this, because of the year that we find ourselves in, that we should consider some of the recommendations made, and, for instance, ensure that there is some engagement, so it doesn't appear that it's some sort of an imposition. And then also that there should be some punitive measure for people who just take any frivolous case to court.
Okay. Yes, so briefly, the consultation to get the buy-in of the political parties is key. It's very, very key. I mean, once you understand the rudiments of politics, if you make stakeholders very important in your decision-making process, they will own it. But where you seem to be on top and talking down at them, just throwing rules at them, it doesn't work. And so here, Afrejan, that was his modus, right? A lot of them. Of course, once in a while, he had issues with the political parties. But by and large, he did that very well with them. And some of the political parties brought very important recommendations to the IPAC meetings, right? So as for that one, it's unassailable. Okay. But his second point that punitive measures, punitive costs on frivolous cases, that one, Afrejan is entered uncharted territories. How do you determine if something is frivolous, right? At the end of the day, it's very debatable. I think that one, he should leave it to the Supreme Court. He shouldn't enter that place. Because if you ask me straight away, election petition 2012, even when the petition was filed, straight away, I used to tell lawyers that, oh, this petition is dead on arrival. Because it was very clear to me that once voters exercise their mandate in voting for Mahama, though I don't support him, the Supreme Court will hardly use administrative processes to disenfranchise them. It was very clear. The MPP was in court for about a year, crippled the economy through the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court hearings made businessmen very anxious. They didn't want to put in money, etc. At the end of the day, they lost. Yet me, I was supporting Akufo-Addo if he would win. But it was clear that you couldn't use administrative process. So election petition 2012 was also frivolous to some extent. It's frivolous to some extent. So the fact that NDC's shambolic performance in 2020, yes, materialized, that it was shambolic, it's no grounds to say that they should put punitive costs. Let's just leave that to the Supreme Court. Let's stay out of that thing.
And I tell you what, that this is a rolling stone that will gather a lot of dust going forward. And thank you so much, Martin Pebo, is private legal practitioner, and then also the leader of the Reloaded demonstration. And then to you, Haruna Mohammed, thank you very much for coming. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. And then also Professor Ransford Gyampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, and then also the president of the UTAG UG, University of Ghana chapter. Lawyer Ejujita Maklo, I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming. He's the Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC. And a speedy recovery to the Honorable George Kweku Rickett Hagan. We got notice this morning of a medical emergency. On behalf of the rest of the team, want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Key Point. And then also to you, Mr. Bemboache, thank you so much. Really appreciate your input on this matter. And as I indicated, this is just the beginning of a very, very long conversation on the power sector. I thank you for coming. It's the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP. I thank you so much for joining us. My name is Alfred Konsek. On behalf of the rest of the team, do have a great weekend.